As many of you already know, ABC International will be restructuring our retirement program in January of 2020. These changes have been mentioned in previously quarterly department meetings, so this is old news to many of you. ABC is an enterprise comprised of 65,000 employees nationally and internationally. With this in mind, it is paramount that we facilitate our news of the change appropriately to our internal departments as well as locations in Europe, Asia, and other regions of the world in a very tactful manner, not undermining their own cultural uniqueness and addressing their concerns with the news released. So understanding ABC's international global cultures is the prime objective here. So we need to be empathetic to their values and their uniqueness. So most of the United States is defined as low context communicators, preferring very explicit information that is salient and to the point. That information is provided by Martin and Nakayama. Our individualistic employees in America should have the retirement information relayed to them in a manner that is direct and non-patronizing, respecting the importance of their individualism. We need to make sure our U.S. employees understand their job functions will not be undermined nor changed, and we have a great deal of potential opportunities in 2020 and the years to come with investment options that we will discuss in greater detail later. Now let's think about the contributors outside of the United States, which will probably pose our biggest hurdles. ABC International is a dominant force in the industry as a global contributor because of ABC's workforce. In the Asian region specifically. Since there are locations in Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, and China, we will use Japan as our first reference point to identify how many of our Asian counterparts have a higher context, culture, and more indirect manners of communication. According to Kazuo Nishiyama, the writer of Doing Business with Japan, Successful Strategies for Intercultural Communication, the status of foreign company representatives should match the Japanese counterpart. The higher context of Japanese culture indicates that there is more common ground between Japanese people and their society. We need to respect this and not undermine it. We certainly would not want to send an executive over to meet an operations department in Japan and share all the facts and figures about the retirement adjustments that are taking place. They would see this as insincere and possibly rude, creating a common ground for from possibly an equal status employee will be the best fit for our highest opportunity in Japan. Next, let's identify South Korea and then China. South Korea still has a higher context than here in the United States. Semantics can be lost in exchanges between South Koreans and Americans when exchanging information. For example, if an American makes a suggestion, the South Korean may respond with yes when they actually mean no. This is not a deceitful tactic. This is just a cultural communication nuance at play. The South Korean might actually be saying, yes, I've heard you, depending on the pause or breath they take after they've listened to the speaker, information provided by Martin and Nakayama. Some cultural groups may see two parties in a negotiation as a winner or a loser. This is very common in China. We will have to tactfully create our message about the retirement plan restructure as necessary change for the enterprise, since we are lowering the employee contribution from 7% to 3% for their retirement plans, while the cost of living for retirees outside of the U.S. is rising from 2% to 4%. On paper, this looks like a losing scenario for Chinese staff, but we must ensure them the opportunities and the right to invest in different options that they will benefit from down the road. All our highly valued employees in Asia should not be undermined and met with sincerity during the release of the restructure information. High context should be taken with heart and severity, though. Humbleness when communicating with these cultures. So now that we've talked about our Asian partners, let's talk about European counterparts. In Germany, their culture is much more like America's in regard to context of their cultures when communicating. There are many similarities in cross-cultural values, like their efficiency in delivering messages, directness, sometimes seen as narrow-focused communicators. Germans prefer to get to the point, so providing the information about the restructure should not beat around the bush or include fluff. The communication needs to be of high quality, and just as the German culture is well renowned for their craftsmanship and produce excellent work. Before we move to Spain, let's also keep in mind European countries have a much longer history in the global economy. Planning for retirement is a monumental decision that needs to be very selectively measured and considered. We'll need to ensure both Germany and Spain will believe that they will prosper from the retirement plan restructuring. Spaniards are also very proud, like our employees here in the United States. Spain aligns with a lower context culture like Germany and most Western cultures and the US, but strongly prefer social and personal interactions and value those standards more so than their careers. Contributor from businessculture.org provided this. Since the goal of the retirement is the future of the employees, we'll have to make sure that ABC International is not hindering their abilities to retire successfully with direct communication. So our three key messages that we really need to focus on is we are having a retirement restructure. In an industry that is becoming more and more competitive, ABC International will be implementing strategic changes to our retirement plan in January of 2020. Under the new plan, the company will match 3% of the employee's salary, and an early retirement option will be offered for staff that is at least 55 years old with a minimum of 10 years full-time service. We understand this may be a shock to a lot of the employees, but this is in the best interest. Planning for your future is not something ABC International takes lightly, and we're aware everyone with this company wants a safe future for their families in years to come. ABC International will not pretend to ignore 4% cost of living increases for retirees outside of the U.S. We want to make sure every contributor at ABC International is well prepared for the changes taking place to our company's benefits. The second key message is valuing our employees. So budgets can be a company's best friend or worst enemy, as you all know, and our finance department executives here in Illinois spent tireless hours assessing the risks with meeting our bottom line numbers in an always changing global economy. Many plans to restructure the company put on the table involved eliminating 5,000 plus jobs here at ABC International. As we look across the industry, so many companies have decided to cut staff or increase executive margins, but this is a trend we want to avoid because ethically this is not a standard ABC International promotes, and it is not in our mission statement. To be an extremely profitable organization, we have to value all of our associates in the restructure of our retirement plans, as well as decreasing executive annual bonuses to half of what they normally expect. At ABC International, we cannot stress enough how important every associate is at every level, and want to continue pursuing ABC International's mission statement without sacrificing your talents. So the third key message is the 401k opportunities. While the restructure of our 401k retirement plan is imminent, there is also enormous opportunities on the horizon. We have partnered with Fidelity Investments and the Vanguard Group for your separate account and your 401k options. ABC International and these two fund houses that are recognized as highest in class in the investment industry are allowing 3% returns on your investment allocations in Fidelity and Vanguard stock bond options for the next 10 years. This means your returns could exceed expectations from previous years to better position your family in a wonderful retirement. While Fidelity and Vanguard are U.S. fund houses, they do have investment options internationally in global stocks and bonds. So what we need to do is our training methodology is we need to send out a mass communication email at first with a video where the CEO, Ted, will be discussing kind of in a tutorial manner the investment options for the new 401k, and there will also be social media releases occurring every other month throughout 2020 in Asia, Europe, and United States. They will not be sent at different times. We want to make sure that everyone receives this information at the exact same time so there's no confusion. We need to train the individuals that are communicating these messages to be very empathetic and respect the values of each culture. As I mentioned with the cultural contexts previously, we need to make sure that the information is relayed in a way that best suits their cultural differences and uniqueness. We will also have once a week we will have a online mass email where there is modules where people from different employees at ABC International can do mock investment options, basically rebalancing their assets and finding which suitability is best for them in the investment world. While we know this is a big surprise, we want to make sure that everyone is trained to better their future by knowledge of stock and bond options, and we want to make sure that before all this communication is sent out, that the utility and respecting values principles are very, very strictly followed, and not undermining any cultures outside of the U.S. and not undermining the cultures within the United States. Thank you very much for your time.